All right, we're live. Oh, my music's not that loud. Just realized.
Gotta have those tunes.
Yeah. All right. Welcome everyone to Table Talk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, The Bella Gamer, with my co-host Glue Boy.
Hello, hello.
And we're at a very interesting time in tabletop in general. Today's chat is going to be about the idea of what's next, right? We just had the huge explosion of some of the most interesting games to come out in tabletop in a while. And Pathfinder is still doing its great Pathfinder things. And D&D is still struggling. But they just got a windfall. They just got saved by Critical Role.
I also heard around that, I think there's a bunch of books just got announced.
Yeah, there is. Oh goodness, what was the one that came out? Also, hi Gabriel. I can't remember exactly what book it was. I'm sure someone will shout it out in a few minutes, but
it's a bunch of Unearthed Arcana stuff. I read through I think a couple of them, and it was just it seems fine.
It definitely seems like a fire has been lit underneath D&D's butt, and I do feel like next year we're gonna start seeing a lot more. Just because I feel like with Daggerheart coming out and taking a lot more of their business than they were expecting, they are panicking.
If this is the push where it starts to become hey Hasbro, you know how you get a bunch of people back and start generating revenue? Invest in your game. Make stuff for the game that is interesting and what people want to buy. Give people a better reason to subscribe to D&D Beyond because there's new content being dropped.
I would agree with the idea if 5e or 2024, whatever you want to call it right now, wasn't just so rotted to the core, you know?
Oh yeah, I agree with that. That's the state of it. Are people who are deep in the D&D paint gonna view it like that? I think there's a lot of people who claim it to be, a really good game, even though they probably homebrewed it to the point where it is a good game. And I think it'd be a better decision to just go all in on 6e, make something really tight and really well designed. But if they want their core audience that likes 5th edition for whatever reason, investing into 5e might be the call. Maybe. Even though I'd be disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, my comment was mostly just my own opinion versus, versus what I think may or may not work. I don't know. Let me know if you've been feeling this too. I feel like we've gotten kind of over the slop era in lots of media, right? I feel like movies and animation and so many other things have been kind of getting better very recently, noticeably.
I think there's we've been having a lot of things that are feeling like they're setting the groundwork for a decades upon decades of classics where we had that bump. Film is going to be interesting because I sadly have another theory that this isn't something I made, but it's a theory I saw, and I think there's a lot of points to it. Some of the slop is going to be moving because there's a bunch of trends in Hollywood you can watch of what's the big thing. And the big thing for Hollywood was superhero content. Make a lot of superhero movies. And this is the first year where there are not a fuck ton of comic book movies in development because last year was horrific.
Yeah.
Showing that people are fatigued of it. And there's another type of movie that is currently exploding with how much money it's making. Video game movies. And I'm certain people don't need to be pointed out how many video game movies are being announced. And how much absolute bank they're making, despite some of them being dog shit, like Minecraft. So
Yeah.
there is a possibility that that's what we're going to see in the next like 5-6 years. We're going to get a lot more superhero video game movies.
Oh no.
I mean, there's a Legend of Zelda one going on right now that they're making.
Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like there's a few that are currently in the works. Some that were announced years ago, but if a couple more of these movies that are being worked on just explode in like how much revenue they're making, I think we could have a Marvel version of video game movies.
I don't know, because, well, maybe that could be true. I mean, I feel like a lot of the current trends aren't going to necessarily end, like putting Jack Black and Jason Momoa in literally everything.
Yeah.
But I want to make mention of, we're getting a lot more pressure from Chinese animation market, because Neja 2 rather has been huge since it's been coming here, and there's been a lot of Donghua that have been coming out that have been doing super well in Western markets, and we're also starting to see the rise of Chinese, like the Chinese are kind of hitting their version of like the 80s and 90s that the US had, where a lot of this stuff is suddenly just like improving dramatically and catching up to world standards, and is gripping the market in ways that it just hasn't done before.
It makes sense. There's a really big push that is trying to show how amazing China is to the US. Like there's a really clear propaganda push that's been going on for the past couple of years. That's a good move if you're trying to do that as a government, because right now there's a lot of US dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if you're also exporting media to the West and it's going to start doing really well, it's a good business opportunity. And like vice versa, if there's going to be any major push, the biggest market that really alters how big studios produce content, it's the Chinese markets. Like that's one of the most important markets for Hollywood, which is why there's so many film regulations and stuff that are specifically designed around China and its rules and like laws.
Well, I would say for the US, I would say it's inverted anywhere else, because the US market, we're the biggest consumer nation in the world for like everything, you know.
Yeah, that's why I specify Hollywood.
Well, yeah,
like
but
Hollywood
like
itself.
Also, it's a good reason why China wants to make stuff that America really wants, because it's super beneficial for them too. And
yeah, I think we're gonna see it in like the next in the next decade. I think by 2030 we'll probably know what the direction is going to go.
Yeah, honestly,
I think if it's either Chinese media or video games, I think those are the two more likely like big booms that are going to happen.
Well, I think they're both going to happen. Video games are a media anyway, so
yeah, like they're not mutually exclusive. Like what we're going to get oh god, if both of these trends happen at the same time, just a bunch of movies, huge blockbuster hits. What's that the Wukong game?
Black Myth Wukong. I can't remember, but it's the Black Myth series is getting a new game.
Yeah, we get a Black Myth Wukong movie that double explodes.
Maybe, I don't know.
That'd be funny.
Maybe.
That's more of a joke, but like that'd be really funny if both trends are exploding and one studio is like, well, what if we just did this?
Yeah, I do think that in the next couple decades we're gonna see a huge like Chinese culture explosion, kind of how like the US again had their culture explosion that kind of affected every other part of the world, you know, where like KFC now has, or I mean KFC, Japan now eats KFC for Christmas and stuff like that, you know. Yeah. I think we're gonna see an inverted version of that, and that seems so weird, but in all honesty, there's no reason why it shouldn't happen. It's just because, like, in the era of knowledge, you know, when we've had the ability to tell each other stuff from across the nation, this era is very new, relatively speaking, only since like the early 1900s. uh, was this really a thing, and was the time when like America was starting to spread across the world. And before that, it was, you know, England with all their colonies and stuff like that. But that was to a much weirder, worse, and different kind of degree.
Yeah.
But now with like China working a lot to like boost themselves up, I don't even know, honestly. I'm sure they do. They're just like us, so I imagine they have them just like that.
Yeah, like we're finally getting to the point where a lot of foreign TTRPGs are getting like translated, either fans or officially.
Yeah.
But like it's starting to spread. And yeah, agreed too. It's that thing of like, man, that feels a little strange.
Yeah.
But it's only because like we've grown up in that era of like basically every other country culturally is kind of imitating the US, like at its peak.
It's
like
that's the us growing up. It's just because, again, the information age. Like, there wasn't Coca-Cola companies all across the world in like the 1800s, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, America was like the first country to do it in this era in a way that wasn't weird, like, again, England. So it seems weird because it's like, no, that's America's thing. America was the ones who pioneered this road, right? But, you know, just like many roads, soon a bigger market comes to follow and does it better typically. So it's going to be weird. It's going to be very interesting, where everything is just going to be very Chinese influenced.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of fun things to pull from it. Like I have censorship on art. I don't like their policies at all. That's the trend I hope that doesn't stick. I hope that one doesn't like grow on. I would rather not have like a light oh man, I forgot the name of those regulations from like the 30s, 40s. But I'd rather not have a light version of that, like the old film censorship laws.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we get like a lot of just Chinese influence, there's a lot of dope stories to pull from.
It is going to be weird because we feel like America can be really right-wing at times. It's way worse in China.
Oh, it's bad in a lot of places.
They have...
It's the Hays Code. Yes, Hays Code. Thank you.
Yeah, they have so much traditionalist, like, politics and stuff like that. That's why they have some of the worst, like, censorship laws in the world currently.
It is, unfortunately, the part where, it was like literally the past decade. It is the reason why big blockbusters really pushed around like any sort of LGBTQ themes, was because they needed to make it so it was easily cut out of a movie for the Chinese release. The really gross example too is for like the Star Wars movies, they made the posters in a way where they could cut out I forget his name, the character's name and the actor's name, but the black character in that movie, so they could easily push him off of the poster for Chinese audiences. And the Hays Code, I would love if we never return to that, because the funny version of it is the fact that like, oh yeah, husband and wife cannot be seen in the same bed, even if it's like explicitly not a sexual scene. Yeah. Which is where you get all the imagery of two twin beds in a master bedroom. Yeah. I guess from that.
Yeah, though to be fair, it's one of those things where like it will really suck, but also it will be the era of like really good underground like media network where
we have an actual like method of indie distribution.
Yeah,
like unlike what was around back then, it just wasn't feasible.
Yeah,
because like, the actual equipment to make it was so expensive, and now it's like you have a laptop, you have a phone.
You got a phone, yeah, that's about all you need.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. It's so interesting because it's something that it's familiar, but all the rules are different, and that's going to make it where we're gonna start seeing like Chinese influence and all kinds of things, and we're gonna and you know, people are gonna like it because, you know, Black Myth Wukong was a really good game. Nezha, from everything I've seen, has been a really good movie series in general, and like Chinese movies have always, you know, had a place in like the movie lover's heart, because there's so many really good movie series that come out in China as well. But now that's just it's gonna be like the common thing, and while yeah, we might start seeing more pressure from China for like a variety of things, we're also just going to see a lot more pushback in some interesting ways. And that's like when we have so many open markets, like as much pressure as China's going to have, that's only going to be on like official stuff, like out of Hollywood. They're not going to be able to like grab YouTube or anything and warp it or make it where you can't watch the riskier things on YouTube. And even if they did, there would be other platforms that you could definitely find it as well. Like, it's just media is so much more slippery than it used to be. So if something is made, it will get seen, and it doesn't matter who's paying the big bucks for it. All that matters is what people kind of are invested in. And kind of like circling back around, I really feel like in general, since we've lived in the information era, you know, since the arrival of the home computer and everything like that, I think people for a long time have just been really easy to please and satiate when it comes to a lot of things, you know? Because it's like video games. It's like when a new video game came out, we didn't have any expectations, so it was really easy to wow people. And so many games that had came out, like looking back at them now, have aged like dirt. You know, they're nothing good, nothing interesting, but at the time they were really cool because we didn't have those expectations. And I saw an interesting post on Twitter the other day. It's just like hottest video game takes, and you know what, I thought of one immediately. No Souls game will ever be as good as the first Dark Souls you played.
Yeah, like fully, because Bloodborne was the first one that I super vested in, and like nothing scratches the itch much like Bloodborne. And also, like every time someone tries to copy it, I'm never satisfied.
Yeah,
I'm not as into the genre. I think that FromSoft makes it fun, but like I hate every other attempt.
yeah, because like, don't get me wrong, Elden Ring is fun. It's a very fun
I
game.
like that game a lot. It's real fun.
And I love Bloodborne. I think Bloodborne is probably one of my favorite in the series. I have to say Dark Souls 1 is probably my favorite, just because Dark Souls 1 was the introduction to me to the concept of a Souls-like game. And it was so mysterious back at the time, you know, because there just weren't games like it where it was like, it was a game that felt actually open. You could go any direction, and you would set off on a different kind of adventure, like everywhere you went. And there were all kinds of weird mysteries and strange things to do. Like the funnest thing of cutting dragon tails off to get weapons was something they didn't do in like almost any other game after that, which is super sad. And it was a lot of fun because it was really rewarding to actually get a dragon tail cut in a lot of those games. And
yeah,
it was just mysterious at the time because it was the only kind of game like it besides Demon Souls, but Demon Souls didn't quite get the recognition. And I'm sure people who play Demon Souls would probably say Demon Souls. So it's like the first game, Souls-like game you play is probably going to be the best one. The other ones will be fun, but the best one will probably always be the first one that you actually played. And I feel like the market has been shifting in that direction because something that I think everyone has seen is the explosion of indie games since like the early 2000s, you know. Like in the early 2000s, indie games were just whatever, you know. When Steam came about and became this big platform, it was something that made it where people were more about the big games, right? Because there's like they had the quality, you knew what you were getting into. But into the 2010s and even into the 2020s, like some of the biggest games that have been coming out have essentially been indie. Peak among them being Expedition 33, right? Which wasn't like fully indie, but was mostly indie.
It's like finally like a studio where it's closer to like double A. Like they had like a decent team, but it wasn't like that massive.
Yeah. Well, and most
yeah.
of it was made indie first before they finally got the funding for it.
Yeah, it was like the big part was like they believe the game would not have been made if they did a traditional like AAA style.
Yeah.
Um yeah, like indie's been a big push and like more and more there's been still like pushback. Like I see the pushback pretty often that's from the specific crowd of gamer that is like, oh, there's nothing good to play anymore. And then all they play is like the latest COD, the
Yeah.
latest Madden, the latest FIFA. And then people are like, oh, there's a bunch of indie titles. Like, I'm not gonna play the indie shit. Like, well,
I've never heard
there-
anyone say that at
I've seen it a
all.
bunch. I've seen it a lot. And that's
Especially with like the YouTube market, like so much about like streaming and YouTube has been predominantly indie, with the odd occasions of the AAAs that eke into those scenes a little bit. So I mean,
there is
you have to
just
be
a
hanging out with
market.
some weird people. Those are the kind of
I
thoughts you're seeing a lot.
I mean, I find it online, and it's only because it coincides with a big hot take I have for video game stuff. It's just there is a casual type of player that will not play a game if it doesn't have like a gun in it. They need it to be like a very specific type of thing. Because I see it so much with like it's the people who specifically are on Twitter to console war, fight about like game sales, like very pathetic things. And I hate the specific trend of expectations for high graphical fidelity or video game realism, where you see all bunch of people take it as very serious critique of a game that say like the latest example, Mafia: The Old Country doesn't have the swimming in it.
Oh, yes, I
Therefore, the
remember
game
that
is
came out.
bad.
Yeah, but
Like
I don't
what?
know. Like
I hate that trend. I hate it so much.
I I think that's all just hate farming on Twitter and Reddit and stuff like
I
that.
think the initial posters are 100% engagement farming. But the problem is it's engagement farming for people that do take that in seriously. Cuz like if everybody there was engagement farming, like sure, I think there's a if 50% of those people seriously like believe it, they see that post and they're like, huh, yeah, true. That's sad to me. I want games that look interesting, that are fun. I really don't like the push for high fidelity. It's like super high fidelity. I like games that look nice and can play on anything. That's the style I wish we were pushing harder for.
Honestly, I think it is because like I consume a lot of video game media, like in general, YouTube videos, all kinds of stuff like that. Uh, I watch a lot of games. I've been buying lots of games. Recently got Rift Breaker, really fun little indie game about being in a mech, and it's like base building slash survival. It's really cool. It's very very interesting. Um, Most people are really not that serious, like they don't really care about that. You're gonna see those people, but like we're still in the age where people are so attention hungry that they're looking for any kind of engagement, even if it's not for profit. It's for personal profit for a lot of people. But like when you see like the channels, like I also watch a lot of like 1000K subscriber channels for video games and stuff like that, like just anyone who's gone on and tried it out. Most people really don't care about that kind of stuff. It's mostly just engagement, the evidence is, you ever watch Moist Critical? He points out all the engagement stuff all the time because it was like, what was it? A girl believing that men, she doesn't believe that baldness is something that can't be helped. Right? Like an insane take. Because she says there's so many ways you can get your hair back, like implants, blah blah blah. No
Yeah,
man.
go to Turkey and spend thousands of dollars.
Yeah, right. But see, that's the thing, right? It's an insane take.
Yeah,
And yet, when Charlie looks into it, he's like, there's a bunch of people that were arguing about it. I think people are just, like dead internet theory, but less so, more in just a lot of people are just kind of participating in the game that is engagement and are just saying all kinds of stuff. Because when you look at like actual channels about games, the small channels that only people find because they're just really interested in those games, most of the comments and most of what people are saying are not like, oh, this doesn't have realism or stuff like that. besides the oddball here and there. And because that kind of thing also comes back around for TTRPGs to some degree, right? Because we had a lot of pushback around newer designs because of D&D's chokehold. But then we saw a proven point that Daggerheart, a 2D12 game, has been super successful still. So, like, I don't take those obtuse sounding opinions so seriously, because you have to prove to me that they're not just being obtuse at this point. I almost don't believe it otherwise.
I don't take it seriously, but I'm annoyed specifically by the people who not post it, like not the people who are straight up 100% grifting on whatever subject they're going on about. Be it like literally anything around gaming. Like it's the same point as the people who start crying woke at literally everything. My issue are for the people that take the engagement bait seriously. And like you see it all the time in that specific woke, like anti-woke circle of there's a person who's 100% obviously doing it for money. They're switching their opinions every day based on what the crowd is doing. And the crowd the whole time being like, yeah, whoa, take this money for this. That I have my issues with. I just have my issues with that specific aspect of it.
Well, but like my argument is most of those people don't even care that much about it either, honestly. Like actually, they just, again, like a lot of these obtuse points, like engagement, a lot of it is like an addiction for people. Like that feeling of like social combat online in a not as fun way, where they just like having obtuse points, or even if they feel slightly enough about a thing, they just will whole hog go into it because like it's cartoonish. Sure, I'm not saying that those people don't exist. I'm just saying they are a minority, and
I don't like the minority then.
That's fine.
I don't like them. I also like even broader. My video game hot take is I think we need to stop going as hard into high fidelity graphics. I would like us to scale it back, because like every studio doing it for every big release. Come on, I don't want to. And maybe it's also a selfish reason. I just don't want to update my PC every 3 years. I don't want that. Like, man, please, like, make games that run at 60, like even on some older hardware, please. My PC's not even old. It's just like, it's just not as high def. To like Monster Hunter Wilds was struggling with it. I definitely can't play the next Black Ops 7 that was just announced. I know for sure my shit's not going to run that well.
Yeah. To be fair, we're kind of just getting into a graphics era of that, like, it's so... I honestly barely can tell when a game is supposed to be more graphics, like high graphics fidelity anymore, compared to anything else. Like, I could see it, but like Expedition 33 was so fine.
It looked great and it ran great.
And that is like... That's what I think like the maximum extent of fidelity should be, you know, I mean, that's a whole argument. The whole reason why I brought this up in the first place was to talk about tabletop. So when it comes to tabletop in general, what we think may be a trend, may not be a trend, it can always be shifted and whiplashed. And like with the Critical Role group sticking with D&D for reasons that I understand from like a financial standpoint, I realized at that moment that left a door open for D&D to make a comeback that wasn't there when everyone thought it was Daggerheart that was going to be their next campaign that they were going to do. Because the thing is, people didn't leave D&D necessarily because it was a bad game, but because there was another popular TTRPG that came out. Because, like, I'm going to be real, I'm going to be honest with y'all right now. Daggerheart's okay.
Yeah.
Daggerheart's an interesting game. and it's got some more modern design, sure, but it doesn't do that much better than most tabletop does currently.
Like I couldn't tell how, like, or no it just doesn't do anything that's insane, wows me. It's the game, when you look at it and like experience it, it's very fine. Like, it works in there. I can see people having a lot of fun with it, as it's super clear online people are. But like, I wouldn't call it the next big great thing, much like I wouldn't call D&D the best thing. But man, I was so unsurprised at seeing that Critical Role was going to do D&D. Again, it's just like, yeah, not surprised. I would be surprised if they did go a complete different direction. The only like likely candidate I feel like was Daggerheart, because of like, let's have a campaign of Daggerheart to promote our game, like, as our company. But it's just why I think there's the financial fear there of separating yourself from D&D at that stage of your like series.
I disagree, because one, the Daggerheart stuff they did pretty well, like view wise and marketing wise. The reason why they stuck with it, like, because I was surprised, but then when I saw some explanations about it, like, that erased any of it.
Oh, did they actually like fully explain it?
Well, there's a lot of like theorizing from people, because they're not gonna say why, really, right? But the reason why Critical Role has stayed with D&D is because they now have a position of power, right? They now have the capability to make or break D&D, and I'm sure when they were, you know, they probably spoke with some D&D people where they're talking about their next campaign, and they probably made some deals that prevented D&D from, like, for instance, a lot of Matt Mercer's setting is owned by Hasbro, like the production of the materials and stuff like that, because it was like they published under them and everything like that. But that's not likely to be the case for their new stuff, which is under Brendan's new homebrewed thing, at the very least. And so what's likely to happen is, because of the OGL business and everything like that, Critical Role is probably going to make their new setting stuff and publish their own books with nothing from D&D as far as like copyrightable material. And they're going to be able to sell that with their own branding. They're going to own essentially D&D to a degree.
I can definitely see it being a really good bargaining chip to be like, we'll take these things, we kind of like trade around this, obviously. We'll stick with D&D, we'll stick with this. We now get some say on some things. But I can at least see that, because I did forget that there's just a bunch of their content on Wizard of the Coast. So I think Wizard of the Coast has a vested interest on keeping them aboard.
Yeah, and that's,
like, if anything, they probably made a pretty good offer, able to get that out of them.
Like, that's what I think, is not only will they be able to, again, self-publish all this stuff, because they can use the D&D engine, they just can't use any of the copyrighted material under the OGL, and D&D has no say in it. But now, I guarantee they were also probably offered a few $1 million to make their next campaign. With how Wizards of the Coast has been running D&D, I would not be shocked if they were offered a stupid sum of money to make sure their next game is D&D, and accepted all of these disadvantageous like agreements about the whole ordeal just to keep them on. So go ahead.
I also have the gut feeling whenever I hear the idea of like it's a business venture from Wizard of the Coast and Hasbro. I just have that gut instinct of like, well, obviously they couldn't be involved in it. The project's happening. because how many times have they announced a thing, pumped money into it, then canceled it partway through?
Yeah.
For literally nothing. That's like my gut feeling. Here, because all the work's being done by somebody else, I imagine, yeah, it's going to carry on. Also, just like, I mean, if anything, this is more kudos to Critical Role. I think the actual format of Season 4 going to be like a, what is it, a West March style game?
Yeah.
I think that's really smart. If anything, to, yeah, like have a nice rotating cast list. And the other bit that I immediately felt was give some of these fucking actors a rest, dog.
Yeah.
Like, they got to do every week, like, do this performance. No, let them have shit they're doing. Like, they're busy people.
Yeah. So, it's something that when it's all explained, it makes perfect sense. And it's something that, like, I'm sure much of the speculation is pretty, like, dead on the money, honestly. Because, like, just because they're running a campaign in D&D, Daggerheart has already been successful despite the fact that they haven't run a full-on campaign in it yet. And Daggerheart is still going to be good because content creators don't want to play more D&D, if I'm going to be honest. XP to level 3 has been diving whole hog into Daggerheart, and many other channels have been just going into Daggerheart as well. So Critical Role doesn't even need to necessarily self-perpetuate it. And Dungeon Dudes and Legends of Adventures are also having their own short campaigns in Daggerheart as well. And
hell yeah.
I mean, like, Legends of Adventures is essentially the biggest name in tabletop currently. So
I mean, yeah, it's the one actual play I like watching. Because it has the least amount of, like, actual D&D gameplay. It's like, I'm not there to listen to D&D. I'm there to listen to people being funny.
Yeah. So, that being said, it's like, it was a smart move on their behalf. They didn't need to run their own game. And so, not only do they get to have D&D's money and make more money off D&D, but their own stuff is still probably going to be out there and still probably going to be doing really, really well. So, you know, like, as much as many people out there want to see Critical Role as like this, the saints of TTRPGs and everything like that, they are obviously running a business, and they are obviously running it like a business. They are not doing this for anything less than millions of dollars. That's super obvious. And like, well, I don't think they're gonna do anything nefarious. I don't think they're going to shy away from taking D&D's money. So.
Yeah, there's like a level of realism you have to take in a production. Like, yeah, they're going to make a decision that makes their show possible. That doesn't mean they won't love the project they're working on. They won't care. They're going to put their heart, soul into it. They'll like it and enjoy it. The thing is, if you have the choices of like, I'm going to run this game kind of the same, just different like game rule set. One of these is going to give me a lot of money and allow us to continue making our series, which is expensive. Yeah. Any production is expensive. You're going to pick the option that gives you money. Because like at the end of the day, the care is going to be there still. It's a similar aspect that's going on with Dropout, because like Dropout does all their D&D content. Granted, a lot of the times they're playing a game that is just a version of D&D that is very tweaked. But like, that's just what they know is going to continue bringing back the money, so they can continue making and producing these shows. They're a company that doesn't have the air of like soulless entertainment industry, like sucking all the revenue out of something, but they are making something for revenue, for a profit, because they have to. Yeah,
and they'll take deals that are beneficial to them so they can keep doing what they want to do.
And I think a lot of people, when looking at that decision as a fan, I think you should kind of be down for them to make that decision, because it means you get the thing you enjoy.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
So that then leaves us with the question that we started this all off with. What's next, right? So
yeah,
because tabletop this was a really good summer for tabletop in general. It wasn't quite the biggest one we've had yet so far. I think that was probably sometime around the COVID era of tabletop. But this has been the biggest area of the most new faces and the most biggest changes in the TTRPG market that we've seen since D&D took hold of it, like a long time ago. Like Daggerheart just crashed into the scene and kind of changed all the rules. And with Critical Role now sticking with D&D, and with Daggerheart still doing well, more than well, they're doing amazing, and especially with the new content they have on the horizons. It's it's looking like it's gonna have a nice, long, healthy life. And honestly, Paizo has been growing under, like behind the scenes. No one's noticed how much Paizo keeps putting out, but like some of the best CRPGs that have come out for gaming have been based on their works, Pathfinder. And we're also in this weird era where there's this new emphasis on star or space or sci-fi like games, like The Expanse, a lot of other types of similar games. And now we have Starfinder out in the similar market that is also got a deal with Warframe, one of the best and biggest indie game projects ever out there. They're no longer indie, but they started indie. So like there's a lot of things it could be, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I don't know. I was very confident in how the market was gonna move for the last 2 years, and to be fair, I was pretty much right. But some shifts have changed things to a degree where I don't know. I know Andrew earlier asked, do you think TTRPGs are going to be narrative first going forward? No, I don't think that's going to be the thing. I think the narrative first idea is more of just a sign that narrative is being considered more as a part of the game rather than like a byproduct of playing the game, kind of like with D&D. But two, it's kind of been proven that narrative first gaming has not been super successful. Like Daggerheart being somewhat of an exception, but even Daggerheart isn't as narrative first as you might think. It's very mechanically heavy. It's just got more narrative blended into it. It's the same thing with Cosmere, honestly.
Yeah. I think it's that bit of a narrative focused emphasis on design. I at least feel it is a harder sell for people who are invested into something heavily. Because if the goal of the market that you're trying to make is to let's pull these players away from D&D and make a game that appeals to the narrative players, you gotta have something there that is a sort of incentive for their narrative players to pull from the game they're playing. And a lot of times, narrative first games are games that like are honestly pretty simple and bare bones.
Yeah,
like they're meant to be non-intrusive, and like sure, those games work really well. They're fun to an extent based on your group, but like if you're looking at it, it's like, well, D&D is more fun, and I can attach all the narrative play that I like to have on top of D&D. Is D&D designed for like narrative play inherently? Not really. But the people who are already enjoying narrative are just going to do it themselves. So you need a reason to pull those people to another game.
Hello, Will.
And I think Daggerheart is probably the best example of it, because the incentive is, one, it's not D&D, but it's close enough that it feels familiar. And like you can then make that jump really easily. I think it would be a harder shift if Daggerheart was like a super rules light experience, something like Blades in the Dark, or like Monster of the Week or something like that.
Candela Obscura. Their actual rules are narrative first kind of game.
Exactly. It's just a hard shift because you're just like, I'm paying this for a game that doesn't have as much game into it, when I could keep playing the game I enjoy, like I enjoy playing, and I have the same narrative experience. I think that's the kicker. It's like the average player is going to have the same narrative experience with their group, regardless of system. It's just if they have a system that rewards them differently for it and like actually is something engaging, I think that's going to be a kicker for what draws a person in.
And if I know anything about gamers, they like winning and they like doing things that feel like they're winning to some degree, because nothing ever sucks the fun out of a game for me more than watching people talk about the game in question, because all they talk about are what's best, what hits hardest, what's playing the game. TTRPGs are rife with this. So narrative first gaming doesn't satisfy that, and it doesn't feel good really game feel wise to choose options that feel like slightly reflavored versions of other options. You know, people
The
want
big one I think the big one, the big kicker, because like it's gonna depend on player, because if the group is strong enough, I can at least pull through the like Monster of the Week is just the best example that we've invested time into.
Yeah.
Of like, yeah, all the classes are like they just do a slightly different thing, like just flavored differently. You don't really have a build in that game. I can pull through it only if like there's a great group, and we had like a great time with it. But I think we all stepped away obviously from that game being like, and I don't think we need to touch Monster of the Week again. I think we're good.
I think we all did, but I think at least we did.
Yeah, it's just like I would be down to do another Monster of the Week game in like in years. Like I just like not anytime now. But the big kicker is just how can you talk about Monster of the Week online and get hype with your friends, because it is just that nature of builds are the thing you talk about. Like it's more fun to talk about it. I'm not a meta chaser. I'm not a super big build guy. I like making me some builds in Pathfinder. But like it's more fun to talk about the cool thing you discovered, the thing you're making that's yours, in a way that's not like, oh man, you'd love my FBI character in Monster of the Week. He's so interesting. When like his mechanically he wasn't super crazy. I just made Leon Kennedy, but like mechanically he's not doing anything interesting. He just does damage.
Yeah,
it's a fun game, Devin. It's just like I think the game itself is weaker than the game we played as friends and people as role players.
Yeah, I agree. Though I have very little interest in playing it for the foreseeable future, at the very least. I need something to engage with in a game, you know. I love the story and I can tell a story, but what makes me enjoy TTRPGs in general are the RPG parts, you know. The parts of actually building an interesting character who functions differently. I want my character to mechanically feel different than other characters. And I want the choices I make when making my character to feel impactful in how the game plays. You know, it would be the same as like playing like a roguelike game, but it's a roguelite only in how different the map is that you go through, and you always play the same character and you get no upgrades or buffs or anything like that. Like that doesn't sound fun, right?
No.
TTRPGs obviously, and Monster of the Week obviously is more fun than that idea, but what I'm going for is you're enjoying it for the act of the role playing with your friends and not because the game is actually doing anything differently for you. And kind of what Alex said earlier, why not just do that in a game that is more gripping and interesting, you know?
Like we would have played if we did I honestly, like thinking on it, I'm like, man, how different would that game have gone if I instead like requested us we look at Hunt of the Reckoning.
Yeah.
Like how much different of a game would that be?
Or
the big
like
difference
Dawson.
was, yeah, or something like that. Like I think the big thing it would alter is a bit of the tone, because like Monster of the Week fits itself a bit more to kind of the campy horror.
Yeah.
And then like Vossen and Hunt of the Reckoning are a bit more like actual horror focused, but I don't think we would have role played it differently. I think we would have played like a lot of the same with each other. It's just like the mechanics would be different.
Yeah.
And that's always the big thing. It's like for any game that we're talking about, like wanting fun narrative features, we're gonna have the same exact roleplay and like a depth of roleplay as we would in the game. The fun is when you're rewarded for it.
Yeah, because you know what? Like, that's a good point. Never have I ever been sitting here talking about any kind of game or wishing for any kind of thing by saying things like, "Oh man, if only we had a game like this, I would roleplay that so much better." Or my characters would be so much more interesting. Like, when it comes to like the purely narrative slash the purely like roleplay parts of it, those are not the things I'm wishing for or hoping for. I'm always like, I want a mechanic I can grip on that makes my character more interesting for me to play, you know?
Yeah, like also Devin, Hunter the Reckoning is very set up for you to play exactly that character type. Because Hunter the Reckoning is less let's have a cool combat scene and more of oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, like the whole combat. It is that frantic oh shit, I'm going to die type game. And there's like in 5e specifically, you're not playing like super powered humans at all. You're playing people.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it would be the experience of like where we talk about like oh yeah, having good narrative features and something like Pathfinder Second Edition.
Yeah.
It does like we're not limited in our roleplay by Pathfinder, like at all. It's always the point of like rules light is better for narrative or roleplay. It's just because like you roll dice slightly less, and then or if you're newer, you don't have to look in the book as much. But like you can have the same depth of roleplay in a crunchy game. It's just, are you as a table going to do that? Like, is that the game? If it's all roleplay, like that is the game you sat down to play because the system doesn't have much else going for it, like crunch wise, or are you going to have like that roleplay depth because the game is that for your party and like your friends, and on top of that, you're playing a very satisfying mechanical game.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, now that I've been thinking about it as well, because like we've been playing Cosmere, and I haven't been as excited for it. And every time I play it, I kind of just like my level of excitement kind of drops a little bit more and a little bit more. It's going to be fun. Playing Stonewalkers is going to be very interesting. But I think one of the bigger problems is like the gain advantage action, for instance. I love the concept of it, but in practice, excuse me, it's roll any skill you want, gain advantage. There's literally no difference. Yeah, it's almost mandatory. I agree, actually. It does feel pretty mandatory.
You kind of have to do that. Like, honestly, the thing I think could fix that is I think there, instead of just gain advantage, I think there needs to be like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 other actions you can take that have as much of an impact.
Yeah.
Like, there needs to be a reason I'm picking gain advantage over another action.
Or certain talents that make it where when you gain an advantage, something else happens.
Yeah. Give me a strong, like, if anything, like, that's a good solution. But I think you can hit a other really good method of just give me a reason why I wouldn't pick gain advantage. Because it feels mandatory because like if I have this many actions, what else am I doing with it? That's straight up like some of the opinion I have as I'm like playing it. It's like, okay, I have these 3 actions. I can't make another attack. I'm in this combat, so there's no point of moving. Why would I not pick gain advantage? There's nothing else I can do here.
Yeah. I mean, that will change to more radiant powers and more talents you guys pick up in general. But, like, at a base game feel, for sure, not a good look.
It definitely, like, that is my... Actually, I think that's, like, kind of my only critique of the game. Because I think I still hold Cosmere as one of my top 5 games. Like, I adore how this game runs. I adore the style of it. I adore the setting. I adore everything about it. It is just that part. I've also been thinking, I'm like, man, I kind of wish gain advantage was a little worse, or like there was something else. Like I think it'd be even something if imposing disadvantage was an option. Like having a stronger method to give an enemy disadvantage, and like maybe you can only take one of those actions. You can only impose disadvantage or impose advantage on yourself. I mean, you can, but doesn't it like cost a thing?
You need to have a weapon or a shield and take the brace
Okay.
action, but that's only for attacks. And I think what Alex is talking about is against any of their actions that they may choose to do.
Like if you wanted to play a build, a kind of a thing where instead of bracing to do that, you were specifically hampering enemies' ability to hurt your friend. Like that is the maybe a possibility.
For me, it's more of like gain advantage. It just doesn't matter what skill you use. You just pick your good not combat skill and roll that against the enemy. It's just, what do you do every round? I use deduction to try to read the enemy's movements, you know. Maybe I'll use another skill I have a +5 in for no reason other than I just want to mix it up a little bit, you know. When using a surge doesn't even do anything differently when you gain advantage. It's just I have cohesion, so I make their foot slip into the stone for like half a second, knocking them off balance, giving me advantage, you know. Sounds cool, and I like how that works. I like the idea behind it. But it's so basic that it doesn't feel mechanically different no matter how many times you do it. The only difference is narratively. And while narrative is good, we already discussed how narrative itself can't carry a game. So
I would if get advantage was a flat roll based on like it's always the same check every time. Like roll a flat d20 on a 10, you get it. I would still narratively flavor it as deducing my enemy's intentions. Like it doesn't change anything. A bit that I think could be fun is like if different types of skills offered you different benefits.
Yeah.
And like I just think the easiest thing that they could do with the Mistborn game is just add a couple more basic actions that are as impactful as gain advantage. Just give me other possible things. It's like, don't give me something that makes me want to use that. Give me something that makes me not want to pick gain advantage every turn.
Yeah. What if there were ways to limit the skills you could use for gain in action? Then you would just create certain skills that become more mandatory than others because gain advantage is just so good.
Like they would just be one, like if you're trained in strength, speed, like whatever, you just pick one of the skills that gave you advantage.
Right. Like Pathfinder does this by sheer grace of there are so many conditions you can apply in Pathfinder and so many different ways that those actions can interact with people, like intimidation, right? When you try to demoralize an enemy, you give them the frightened condition. It's not as good at reducing AC as making them off guard, but it reduces everything else they have by 1, which makes it really, really good. Or making the enemy off guard, which reduces the enemy's AC by 2 and can proc things like backstab or sneak attack. Or there's the sickened condition that you can apply to enemies, which is more difficult to get rid of than the frightened condition, but is oftentimes one of the more strongly resisted conditions, because usually it's a fort save type thing, and fortitude tends to be one of the better ones in comparison to will. And so like Pathfinder does this by just making other things do other things, you know, making it unique in its own ways. And unfortunately, despite my offering of making which skills, you know, like talents or whatever that affect how gain advantage works when using certain skills, it just will make it where now the only thing you do is that one skill. It doesn't really fix the problem and doesn't give you more options. It just makes the choice a little simpler on which action you're going to use to gain advantage, you know. unless the effects are big, but the game doesn't have enough statistics to manipulate to make it worthwhile. There's no conditions like frightened or the second condition to make use of, so they would have to add new conditions. And isn't there an issue of making early game combat too complex for new players? So that is a thing, right? A game's complexity you shouldn't base off of the early levels versus late levels when it comes to new player experience. The game itself is either going to be too complex or not for a player. It doesn't matter if it's early game or not. And in fact, in most games, early game is one of the harder times in the game at all, because you're the most likely to die at those levels anyway. So Pathfinder doesn't really change how much you can do in the early game for getting these conditions. Many of them are still kind of there, but you just don't have as much access, or you can't manipulate them as well. But the thing is, if someone is so new that the game is going to be too complex for them at the beginning, it's not really going to be a big difference if you make it easier for 10 sessions, because then after that point, it'll still be too complex for them anyway. Players aren't learning machines. Typically, you come and you play with your friends for a few hours once a week, if even that. So the amount of information you retain in a session is not that high, to be honest. So if a game is too complex to you at the beginning, there's no amount of ease that's going to make it easier for you later. You might as well just play an easier game first and then move to a more complicated game, if you want even that. But I'm actually getting really tired of this new players conversation when it comes to TTRPGs. There's so many people who've been playing TTRPGs for quite a while now, and there are tons of games out there that they could play instead. Why does my game need to be orientated towards new players when they have their own options? Right? I want the game to be fun for the people I want to play the game from the beginning, you know? So
yeah, like if anything too, if you're playing a game, new players are going to be just as confused if you start them at level 1 to like level 3 to level 5. They might have a bit more toys to play with, but like they're going to be still confused and because it's complicated.
I played Adventure League with a young boy for months and months and months. He's still playing as a warlock, got confused on what he needed to do, and forgot how to use Eldritch Blast many times.
The amount of times I've played D&D with people for a long period of time and they forgot how to make an attack roll. It was astounding. I was lucky. I had it happen with someone I considered like a good friend. To where he asked it for like the 20th time how to make an attack, to where I stood up from my GM seat, walked over to his table, and was just like, your weapon has a nice line. You see, it says +7, then damage dice. I like walked him through that. And sure, I was intentionally being like a goofy dickhead about it. But it connected for him. And then he asked me again later, and I was like, bro. He's like, no, okay, shit, I'm sorry, I know. I remember your lesson. But like, it still happens. It's people who like learning games is just a more difficult experience, or they're in a moment. I see this a lot, especially with like newer casual D&D players. I think they get so like absolutely hyped in for like what's going on in a scene that when you ask them to make it a roll, they're like, oh shit, fuck, this is a game. Uh-oh. That's something I see pretty often. And that's what happens if you're playing a game that you're having a good time with your friends. You can just forget the game in front of you.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, some people are just going to be confused. It doesn't matter what level of complexity you add. D&D's super simple, but like people still get confused about it all the time.
Yeah. And like, I'm just sick and tired of the argument. Like, what about the new player experience? What about trying to get new players to play your game, for the first time? I don't think that's relevant, to be completely honest. Like, in fact, Daggerheart, I would say, is several steps actually more generally complex than D&D. That hasn't been stopping anyone from playing that game. And it's not a D20 game.
Literally the only point it would hit is for if you're on the business end going for mass market appeal. But like even then, if your game itself is cool enough and you can have enough like people trying to pull others in, I mean, it's the Path of Exile point. Game is so complicated. Like it looks insane, but there's a level to that complexity that gets a type of player more invested to slam their head into a wall to learn how it works.
Yeah.
Which was me when I was trying to get into it. As a person who kept claiming before Path of Exile that I hated ARPGs as a genre, I still largely do. I think there are 2 ARPGs I've played and enjoyed, and that's Path of Exile and Last Epoch. But to be honest, half of that is because of WASD controls.
Yeah. And I see, Adam, that you're trying to like work out ways of making Cosmere better, which is cool. And that's, you know, something that like, if I wasn't a man in the middle of the TTRPG field trying to like make a career out of it and also just have an interest in trying so many games, I might be thinking and considering more ways of like homebrewing it to make it better. But I'm going to say that if you're going to do that, it's going to be a big undertaking, because honestly, the best way to make Cosmere better is to add more game to it. Yeah,
like unironically, I hope, I if anything, it's like if you still keep getting tied to the Cosmere game with like the Brotherwise team, please give them that feedback.
Yeah.
Use whatever influence you can get to be like, hey, this is a thing I see as an issue. And just be like, this feels solvable. It feels very solvable, because the game itself is fun, but it's just that problem of like, when you play a game, there's sometimes that situation where, why would I not take this thing? It is objectively the best thing to do in a situation. And I think it's a problem when you have that. An answer isn't to nerf the thing that's good. Like, that's an unfun way of doing it. It's elevate other things to be equally viable.
Yeah.
So then players are incentivized to do other things. That's what you want to do. You don't want to disincentivize a player from doing the thing that works. You want to incentivize the alternative.
Yeah. And like, to some degree, they somewhat do it. They have other actions that you can eventually take when you go down the talents that, you know, are not the gain advantage one, but do other things. It could be argued, though, whether they're as good as gain advantage or not, because most of them are not like as statistically good. But
yeah, it depends, because like when we get to the farther radiant stuff, I'm gonna have other options. But like the consideration I'll make is like, yeah, I have this really cool option I can do. It'd be kind of better if I rolled advantage with it.
Yeah. So like, Cosmere is a good game that was made for a audience I don't feel like exists, which is sad, because like, I'm gonna be so real. The most of the people who are interested in Cosmere are Cosmere heads, people who like the books. That's like, I guarantee the game was funded by Cosmere heads, not TTRPG players. And I don't think those people would appreciate the more simple design that they went for to try to appeal to like more D&D fresh audience, right? Because in all honesty, a new player, that's cool, Morgan. A new player is probably going to ask the same question, like, I want to gain advantage. And it's like, all right, cool. Tell me how you do it. And they're going to be really confused. And then GM's going to say, pick your best skill and then try to work that into how you do it. And then they're going to do it. And then the next time they're going to think about it. And they're like, I'm just going to use the thing I did last time because that was easier. And then they're going to be like, I feel like most combat sessions, all I'm doing is gain advantage in attacking, or gain advantage in using one of my surges, or whatever, you know. And that just doesn't make for a very interesting TTRPG, when like the whole point of a TTRPG was, in comparison to a board game, you had more narrative things that you could apply to the in-game scenario that could essentially break the board game aspects of it, you know? Like, for instance...
oh, yeah, no, finish that.
Sure. For instance, demoralizing. In a board game, it's kind of silly to think about one piece demoralizing another piece in actuality. But in a narrative setting, it makes a lot more sense. And so you could apply that onto it and, you know, all the variety of things. But what were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, it's just that point of there's that gamification of it. Feels very board gamey. When the fun of, like, the Cosmere as a tabletop idea is with a universe and setting where you have such a fundamental understanding of what's going on, how things work. It gives you that level of freedom to, like, you know, do at what you want, do exactly, play the style you want, do these cool ass things. But, like, I wasn't reading these books in, like, any of the settings, and I wasn't reading Kaladin consistently gaining advantage. Like, that wasn't what I was reading. I was reading him do a bunch of other things. And I hope the fix comes with the Mistborn book, so we have another data point for Scadrial #1. I am fully on Scadrial's side for everything they do. We'll see if that bites me in the ass in the next, like, 10 years. But it is fun. I keep hinting to Slug. As she's updating me, like, I can't wait for you to be on Scadrial's side. And then she's like, what do you mean side? What does that mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you'll see. But yeah, like, I hope that it gets fixed because I want to do all these really cool things, especially in the Mistborn, like, magic system. And if I'm spending half of that just gaining advantage, I'm like, man, I want to, like, I can see Mistborn solving it because I think Mistborn has more things with some of the powers that you could actively do consistently in your combat. Like, there are more actions I think you'll be taking, especially if you're like steel pushing, iron pulling. There's just enough maneuverability that I hope. I can also see they're just going to make it a different fly speed, like movement speed buff. But I think there's enough extra actions you can take that they're not going to have it. They gotta add more. They gotta add more for me to do because I love this game. I love the Cosmere. Like, I adore it so much. And I want this game to be the best for a Cosmere fan and also a tabletop fan.
Yeah. I honestly have been feeling less confident with it because reviewing a lot of what they've been saying about Cosmere, they've designed and they put a lot of effort in designing Stormlight so it will be cross-compatible with all the other games. So they're going to keep a really rigid design principle moving forward so that they're all cross-compatible. Now, we can hope that they'll layer some new things on and introduce not different, but improved or, like, more interesting ways some things can be used later. But I have a feeling that they're so set on this idea of the cross compatibility that they're going to keep the game more or less the same with just different powers and different talents and stuff like that.
The only bit I hope that they don't is I hope they're too much of Cosmere fans to keep it that way, because, like, it is already gearing up to be a point of the systems, of, like, the magic systems, that, like, using Stormlight and being a Radiant is inherently stronger than being an Allomancer. Would that translate as good for game feel? Maybe, probably not, but, like, it's already also been answered. Fun fact through Word of Brandon, like 2019, Shard Plate is actually, like, not super strong against firearms. Sanderson was asked how many shots from, like, Wax with his revolver would it take to, like, take down a Shard Plate wielder, and he was like 2 or 3, unless he got a really good shot, and it would be 1, like, depending on where you shoot. I hope there is that level as a Cosmere fan of, like, disparity between the systems, that, like, if you're an Elantrian with full investiture, you are inherently stronger than everyone else. It's just your game is now slightly different of how you get that power.
No, they're not going to do that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I mean, I think
They've
they already
spoken
said
many times about making sure that everyone feels like they can do, well in the setting. So they're balanced like the paths against the surges, and they're going to do the same thing with allomancy and ferrochemy and all that kind of stuff. So
it makes more sense, because I think if I got exactly what I wanted, if you were doing a world hoppy game, I think it would kind of suck.
Yeah.
If you were having everything be that power disparate. I would like it if the power was felt in different ways rather than like the vertical, like up, down, strong to weak. I hope it's just doing different things really effectively. Because I mean, to be fair, an Allomancer who's good with it's Zinc. I forget
which one.
The emotional Allomancy.
Zinc.
Zinc, and then there's
and,
the other one.
I
know it's not copper.
It's not copper. Trying to think. I'm trying to think of the pairings.
I'm also struggling to remember what metals exist in the world, like, to be honest.
Well,
like,
let's see. It's pewter, tin, copper, bronze, steel, iron, zinc. It's paired with the hazing one.
I'm going to copper mine. There we go. Let's see. Zinc inflames, riots emotions. Copper hides allomantic okay. Soothing is brass. It's brass than bronze. Okay.
Brass. Yeah.
Brass and zinc, like inherently an allomancer using those is going to be better with charisma stuff than a radiant.
Right.
To that extent, I hope that's really what sells a lot of the power disparate of like, you are in a situation where having allomancy would be more useful than being a radiant. Which also means I hope that the game invests harder in not having everything be combat related. But yeah, like that's more what I hope. So I think they also said something about Elantrians, their action economy is going to be different, like to balance how strong the actual powers of Aeon Door are.
Yeah, I mean, they're still quite a ways because they're just finishing Mistborn now, so it's like we'll see. But the thing is, I don't feel confident it's going to be anything other than they just have surge-like powers, because like the surges are interesting, right? They do things that are not just very simple game mechanics. Using soul casting is a whole thing onto itself. The same thing with cohesion and tension. You can do some really interesting things, but mechanically in combat, it's like, okay, you're fighting on the pier with some thugs. What are you doing? And you're like, oh, is there a rope on the ground? And you're like, yeah, there's rope on the ground. Sure. I'm going to grab that rope, apply tension to it, and like hook someone with like an odd bend in the rope, making it stiff. And they're like, okay, cool. Roll cohesion to gain an advantage. Like,
yeah.
It makes the gain advantage system makes sense, but that action is equal to I use deduction to see what move he's gonna make next. Even though
it is
it just doesn't feel interesting when you look at it from a mechanic standpoint. And to be fair, right? Honestly, despite that, I would much rather play a Cosmere game than another game of Monster of the Week, because it feels more interactive than Monster of the Week, even though they have some similar elements.
I think it is the strongest suggestion I would make towards the game going forward. I think that just needs to change. I think they need to I think they just need to give more for the game
Yeah.
to be like to have longevity. I like Brotherwise enough. I think they've also proven that they are the type of devs to like keep pushing a thing forward. Uh I hope they can do that with this game. I'm also checking through just the Discord if there are anyone else like voicing the same thing about gain advantage. Just like, is there anyone else being like, why would I not use gain advantage? I'm just saying that this is probably like an issue.
It's not that he didn't have a lot of interactions he could do. It's the question was, or the similarity is, there are many other of the I forget what they're called. Many of
It
the
has abilities.
many of the other archetypes that could do essentially the same kinds of things as Liam.
The narrative would be the thing that changes, not the mechanical aspect of Liam. Like the story would be different. That's kind of what it is. Of like you could make a character that does the exact same things as Liam. It just wouldn't be the same person. But like mechanically, they'd be indistinguishable.
And as well, a lot of the stuff really didn't directly interact with the system anyway. You know, you would just role play how you do a thing, you know, and then like all the cool things that I did with my character was mostly just BS pulled out of my butt and then making a magic skill check. You know,
Yeah,
there was nothing mechanically interesting about it. All the things I did, all the interesting things I had, were mostly just, and then I make a magic test, you know, and see if that worked, see if my ingenuity worked, you know. Like I enjoyed the ability to pull literally anything out at any moment. I liked that ability. I thought that was very interesting.
It's a fun ability to give a person who's good at improv on the spot doing that.
Yeah. But mechanically, it really didn't do much more than if someone else just used a different kind of magic, you know?
Yeah.
It was just more of I could justify it a little bit easier using one of my abilities.
If you were a conjurer, it'd be the same ability.
Effectively, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, again, none of what we're saying invalidates the fun we had or the fun you can have. It's just, you know, when we're just looking for a game that feels as good as the stories we tell with it.
Yeah, because like I love that game. That was a really fun game. I'm happy we all did it. It was a great time. If I had to make a top 10 list of campaigns I've played in, that would be one of them. But like Monster of the Week as a system is not gripping as gripping as a lot of other games we've played.
Yeah.
I want the Cosmere to stay as like the top of my thing. I think if Mistborn drops and Mistborn doesn't add just more things that you can do, like more abilities, more standard actions, and like fixes this problem that of like, yeah, I gotta use the gain advantage every turn. I think it's gonna hurt a little bit. I at least have faith in the design team, though I do, if they ever put out anything of like leave feedback, I think people need to leave feedback of like, I wish we could do things other than gain advantage. Feels like we're incentivized to do this always.
Yeah. I mean there are other things, but like
why would I do a lot of them?
Well, I wouldn't say that. They open the game up and look at some of the talents, because there are some things you can do for sure. Especially if you're a Radiant, because like using your surges is one or two actions. So you would use your surge typically, and then you would attack or do something, which, you know, stupid. No, I don't want AI shit. I hate Adobe.
Yeah. Really keep pushing for that.
Yes, they do. Because it's corpo and soulless.
Yeah. Even fun. Like I for some reason my Adobe Acrobat is bricked. Like I actually can't use Adobe Acrobat anymore. I even reinstalled it, repaired it. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, because like many of the fighters stuff, they get different stances that they can swap into. The leader, the Politico, has tactical ploy where you test deception versus cognitive to make your target lose a reaction and gain disadvantage on their next cognitive or spiritual tests, which is pretty good. Like, there's a lot of actions I would say are similarly good. But I would say gain an advantage, especially early game, feels like just one of the better ones, and two, none of the other ones are statistically as good as gain an advantage on your next attack if you're doing damage. Like, Assassin has Startling Blow. Make an unarmed improvised weapon attack versus cognitive. On hit or graze, the target becomes surprised. That's really good. You know what you'd want to do right before Startling Blow?
Gain advantage.
Gain advantage. You know, even though you could Startling Blow and attack to attack them twice, essentially, which is also good. Making the target surprised could be better. And Swift Strikes is just I attack now twice, which isn't. I do feel like it gets better, but early game it just doesn't feel that way. I'll withhold full judgment on the idea until we play a bit more. We will get to we'll play through level 6, which is the beginning of tier 2, and we'll see how it goes. But it's just at this point in the game, what we've played in 5 sessions has mostly been gain advantage attack, and that isn't fun. So
yeah, I hope if we come back to this in like a good few months and we're like, okay, that is an early game problem, that is a good ending, because then that feels easier to adjust. If the game decides to adjust it, then it feels like, oh yeah, just have some really, like, add a couple more alternative things that, or you get access to really quickly at like lower levels that give you more fun things to do. If that is the penalty to the game, sure, because like then it just fits in the slot of other tabletop games of like, yeah, low level is kind of boring, but once you get your powers, ooh, the game really picks up. Yeah. Like, you know, like Pathfinder and D&D and like all these other games start at level 3, don't start at level 1. But
if you don't like doing gain advantage, do something else. That argument completely ignores the point we're making.
Yeah.
We're not doing it because we like it or dislike it. We do it because it makes our character perform better, which is what we want to do it for. That's like saying, you know, if you don't like working out to become fit, just don't work out. I want to get fit still, so I got to work out. You know?
It's the thing of a game where you have a game when it's like when you're balancing it and you have something that's just very good. You have something that is like, in a lot of situations you look at it like, this is the best option I can make to have this be as effective as possible. And then I think it is a fair reason to look at that and be like, man, I wish I didn't feel like I have to pick this to have my character do the best they possibly can. If the solution is don't pick it, that is a weaker solution to let's elevate other options so people are incentivized to do that as well. Because it makes for a stronger game and a stronger experience if more things were as effective as the best option, like at a certain level.
Well, I'll also like say secondly as well, there's not much else you can do. You can move, you can strike, you can gain advantage, and maybe you can attack with an offhand weapon, but what if you're not going an offhand weapon?
Because like that is the bit with my character with Baranor, Like I don't have access to a second best option.
Yeah, there's just
Like
nothing else. There's
at that stage.
yeah.
I don't have the abilities that could be my second best option, or I can't even determine if it is. So because like I've looked through the action list a lot to see what else I can pull, and it's like yeah, I'm going through like 3 action slow turn because it benefits my my AC gain like much better with my tactician ability. So I am in that case if I want to be more survivable, then like yeah, 100%. I need to go slower so I have a higher AC, and then when I get to the point where I've moved already and I'm standing in front of an enemy,
Yeah.
then I'm like, I can't attack 3 times. What
Yeah.
do I do with these other ones?
Yeah, and so you just said I don't know the game, so whatever. So why did you speak? Literally, you just unintentionally made the water muddier due to lack of knowledge. Like it's not even a thing that normally bothers me. It's just the thing of like you got to really consider what you just did was spoken from a point of ignorance that did not aid anything whatsoever, and then you argued back. So like reconsider next time when you speak up if you know anything about the game at all. You could have asked, "What is there anything else you could do?" That would have been a much more productive conversation to have. Anyway,
this is a thing of feedback. I think it's I'm saddened too that like it's not in the Cosmere Discord of like other people pointing us out, because like I hope the designers can see it, and I'd love to have it pointed out to the designers like, hey, early level, I feel like I don't have enough access to options, and so I get stuck with like what actions I can take.
Yeah.
I wish I had more, because I feel like as a designer, you read that and you're like, oh yeah, fair enough, because it doesn't sound like it's a really insane fix. Like if the solution to not do anything is like wait till you get higher level, then like sure, like then it like I said, it goes into the camp of other tabletop games. Don't start at low level, but it doesn't feel that crazy if you're already building the game up to be like, oh yeah, let's see what we can do and add more things of a standard actions a player can do, or give players more actions to do early on, like through leveling. I feel like both of those are really easy implementations. I think the big thing to do is have the devs know that this is a thing people are noticing, and this could be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm looking over the actions now, and the only thing, like, if we're looking at the one action economy by itself, you have an action remaining, what are you going to do with it, right?
Mm-hmm. I've moved and I'm going to attack. What other options can I take?
Yeah, the only other one I can really see is brace. Because the other ones are use a skill, which doesn't do anything in combat unless you're using it to gain an advantage.
Yeah.
It just use a skill and gain advantage are the same thing, but they're for different reasons, you know.
Yeah, basically.
But in combat scenarios, they're effectively the same. Disengage is not helpful when you're on the offensive.
I'm trying to kill the guy. Interact
doesn't work most of the time because there's not a thing to interact with.
I touch his shoulder.
Yeah. And there's move and ready. I guess you could ready a thing, but like why? You're already there. So like
yeah,
literally,
I'm going to swing or already have swung. Why would I ready?
Literally, there's just not another choice, at least at base. And not every path gains an action. And many of them that have an action pretty early, like say the warrior gains the stance. Once you're in the stance, you don't use that action anymore.
Yeah, like it's why I think it's my first solution, my first draft is add an action that isn't like brace, because that's for yourself, to hamper an enemy, impose disadvantage. And maybe if you want to limit it, you can only take one of those a turn. So like you can either gain advantage for yourself, I grant you can also aid, but I think that's a reaction. Um, right? Like giving your friend advantage, isn't that a reaction to do?
It's a reaction, yeah.
Okay. So like you can give yourself advantage or impose disadvantage on someone else. Like you're going like at the end of your turn, you've done all your shit, and you know for a fact this enemy is going to hurt your friend. Let me say I'm going to impose disadvantage by being in their face. They have a target. I'm going to lock them up, like in combat, like as we're fighting, so their focus is on me. And if they want to do this, it's going to be harder. That feels like a genuine thing I'd be kind of mulling in my head of which one do I want to take. Granted, it's then playing with advantage, disadvantage. The counter thing I can see working with that is once you include a much stronger gameplay of imposing advantage and disadvantage, then it becomes a strong push and pull. And like, if anything, you're getting your characters to a neutral state more often. Like that's part of the game now, is making it so you can attack normally rather than I'm always attacking with advantage.
Yeah, that's true, and that has happened actually already quite a bit with some actions already.
100%. Like I already see it in the game. It's something I think could be argued to play into it harder, because like that's the part I think is fun, because I think it's taking an advantage disadvantage mechanic from D&D that I personally kind of believe is boring. I think it's a boring mechanic. Because it's not dependent on you as a player that much.
Yeah.
But like, if it then became, let's take the concept of advantage disadvantage and let's gamify it. That to me is an interesting design concept.
I don't like it, because the result is you either gain a benefit or you don't gain a benefit, or the enemy doesn't gain a benefit or gains a benefit depending on how things go. Like it's kind of like a binary thing that just doesn't make many interesting things happen. Like it's never fun game design when what you do is just making nothing happen by consequence. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing you're doing is just negating the benefit of someone else's thing. It's like counterspell. Counterspell feels really bad, both sides of the table, because you're just preventing a thing from happening instead, you know. Like
I can see it. It is just like, I'd love if it was gamified in a way where I'd like more of a push and pull, because in my head I'm thinking about it like, yeah, 100% there's an element of it that's just like kind of resetting yourself to zero consistently, and or just making sure you're not at a one, like -1 +1, whatever. It would narratively kind of be that moment of feeling like you are in an actual fight, of like you are doing all these things to make it so you can actually swing. Because like in a fight, you're not just like attack block. You are doing all these other bits. Would it feel like that in play though? I just think it needs to be expanded. I think there needs to be more things for that like hanging third action, to just give me a couple of toys at like an early level, so that I can just do something different and have it feel like cool.
Yeah, honestly, I respect the vision of gain advantage. I honestly think it doesn't belong in the game. Or it's not a very interesting game mechanic, because gain advantage is just make a skill roll of your choice. It doesn't matter what skill you roll. All of that happens is whatever narrative flair you want for it. As a mechanic, it's just there to take place of more interesting actions that could happen instead. You know, like in Pathfinder, they don't have an advantage disadvantage in that game. Instead, you have things that make an enemy off guard. That reduces their AC and makes them easier to hit, which is essentially why we're using gain advantage in the first place. But as I already mentioned, demoralize does that a little bit, but also affects everything they do a little bit. Or, you know, like disarm. Disarm is now really, really good, where if you disarm an enemy in Pathfinder, they suffer a penalty to their attack rolls until they fix the grip themselves, you know. So it's something where you're forcing an enemy to take an action. Like, if you're going to have a thing that feels like you're dueling off with someone, it would be better served being a one-up system versus a one up, one down, one up, one down, one up, one down kind of thing.
It's the part that is a shame that the game is like out away, because I feel like it'd be an easier fix, and like a fun option of like, all right, gain advantage lends itself to this, push and pull is not as fun, or just like I kind of always have to do it. What if we split gain advantage into like 3 other things? Mechanically, they're more interesting. There's some standard actions, and they have a bit more mechanical reason of like picking between the 3.
Yeah.
That is a much harder fix to do because the game is out and released.
Yeah.
That's not something that's as easy to errata out, because like I'm picturing it in the way of like, imagine Pathfinder in their remaster errata a standard ability out,
right,
like a standard action. That feels really weird, and so it feels like the fix in this case is to give more tools. Like you need to attach things on top of it rather than like remove and adjust.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess we just came back to where we started. They just need to add some more things. I don't know if they're going to add anything too much to like make the biggest differences. And I think
it's just an early level thing, like issue. I hope that's the case. And like in that case, even 1 or 2 extra actions, I feel like could possibly adjust that. It's not even anything crazy. It's just like, oh, hey, new book drop. By the way, guys, we added some more standard actions. Everyone's like, oh, sweet. And it's just subtly to fix that problem. I hope that is more of the case, but I think it's not going to be the case unless the devs realize or like are told by the community that that is a problem. If the community isn't saying it, which it feels like they aren't, just from looking through the Discord, then it's not going to get fixed.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I think one of their biggest faux pas they made actions like grabbing and shoving people 2 actions rather than 1, which just feels too clunky in the action system and don't feel worth the action economy you're using for it. And there's some really interesting action economy choices they made with a lot of their actions, where they made a lot of actions 2 actions. But as we know from playing Pathfinder, like magic casters don't have the most versatile dynamic fighting style in the game. They kind of struggle because what you mostly do most turns is move and cast a spell.
Actually, yeah, because that was the thing with William, like playing him, like when I was moving and casting, I had some shit to do. But then like I kept having situations where I cast a spell and I'm like, I'm in a great position. Why in the world would I move? So like then I have the 3rd action. I'm just like, what do I do with this? I'm like, that's the reason I started recalling knowledge in combat. So I'm like, I'm not gonna do anything else. So like, might as well do something like slightly helpful.
Yeah. To be fair, they are making that better. They're adding more and more 1 action spells as time goes on.
I like 1 action spells. I think it's a fix. It's just there's not a lot.
Yeah. So, you know, I think like there's just a lot of problems like from a fundamental level that the game has that like, again, we will have fun with Stonewalkers. We're going to enjoy our time playing the game. The surges are interesting and create some very interesting moments, dynamically speaking. Like, we just last session, we saw Circle's cohesion ability come in clutch in a lot of really important scenes.
I am so sad.
You should be. A lot of stuff happened.
Oh yeah, I'm always sad when I call out. Like, I don't like doing it. It was purely when I was like, I would attend and then be dead silent the whole time. I was fucking dead. I've been like sleeping a lot more just because I need to. Yeah, I was so out of it that day. Doesn't help that I had a little critter that kept waking me up repeatedly. But yeah, it was But man,
But
I like the game a lot. Like I think
yeah,
it's really cool. My hope and like point of critiquing is always because I think things are fixable
right.
and you could like fix it. Because like for me at least, the gain advantage point is like the one critique I've found so far. Like I like all of what the game is doing. Like
Yeah.
everything we've done, I enjoy. And so then in my head, I'm like, yeah, I really like this game. It's got one flaw I found, which is better than what I can say about other games I love.
Well,
Uh,
I wouldn't say it has only one flaw,
it's
but
one flaw that I've found. Because like there are probably others that I just haven't encountered. That is just the one I actively like work with. The other flaw in my head is the dice system. Like I would prefer it to be a
yeah,
different one. But like
we had
I think
a lot of bad rolls last session, and
it came back to us. We had such good rolls the other session.
I know everyone was really feeling that D20 last session.
Yeah, it feels great until you get the other side of a D20 system.
I don't know why it boggles my mind when you have games that do this, because just like on a fundamental level it makes no sense. It's just old D&D rearing its ugly head. Why on God's green earth are we rolling a single die but trying to have consistency in the experience? Why are these games set up? Because a D20 is not consistent. It's only consistent that you get one of the faces on a D20. Like, you have a 20-point swing. Anima had this problem too. Anima was a 100-point swing, in one way or another.
Like, there's a big swing to be like, I could roll right now. I could roll an 80, or I could somehow get myself to a 200.
Right.
Like it's swingy in a different way, but like I at least had skills in Anima I felt consistent with, because it gets to a point where your skill modifier is so stupidly high, you're fine unless you botch.
Yeah, I that's so funny, because to think Anima has a better skill system than most modern TTRPGs. Because in Anima, if you want to be really good at a skill, you just put enough skill points where you can almost never fail.
Oh no, I rolled a 12. Well, then my final check is 252.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, like that doesn't change anything. It just means you're not hitting the cap as much. That's really funny to think about.
That
the
is really
Anima the Anima dice system, an exploding dice system, has more consistency. That's goofy.
That's so weird. I never thought about that until just now. Be highlighting it compared to Cosmere of all things.
Because I was thinking about like what dice systems feel really good and consistent, and I'm like, the only other one other than like Anima in that extent is like playing the Rogue Trader CRPG, because like in Rogue Trader, because it's a percentile like countdown dice system. I forget the name of that if I'm saying that right, but it is also a D100 system. It's the same countdown as like Call of Cthulhu has.
It's a roll under system.
Roll under, like that is also super consistent. Like in so many times of that game, you have like a 90% chance of succeeding, for like as long as you're building your character with like putting points in the thing you want to do, which like why wouldn't you? Once you get to that point, you're really consistent, and then it's just big flops that can occur. And it's like, is D100 just an actual, like, is D100 a good dice system for consistency?
No, it effectively is the same. The only difference is in these games you could build your skills better is the difference.
It's a modifier difference. What if we had a D20 system where the DCs were the same, but instead of a +5, I had a +10 at like level 2?
That's why Q gave everyone expertise in like everything.
Because I convinced him to do that, and I'm endlessly happy that I did that.
Yeah.
I convinced him that expertise makes D&D feel better. And then he saw it in action, because I was, as a bard, had expertise a lot. And he's like, I think you got a good point. He's like, I do, because I'm asking you to make D&D slightly more like Pathfinder.
And even then, that's not even necessarily like Pathfinder.
Pathfinder has bigger modifiers, and so like there are certain checks that you feel more consistent with.
I mean, Pathfinder definitely, especially by the time you're getting to like level between 7 and 10, feels way better for sure. But you can still have those moments. But yeah, it's
yeah,
funny.
you can have the moments, but Pathfinder is just better than some other D20 systems with it.
We said that about Anima, and now I'm thinking about it now, and just like, how would Anima really feel like if a lot of the systems were toned back or stripped away, like rather than the crazy key system, what if the only things you could really get were like the Ars Magus weapon stuff and all that kinds of things, like things that are harder to break. I think
I wouldn't like the game as much.
I mean, well, yeah, some of the wild stuff is like some of the most enjoyable things. I'm just thinking, like, functionally speaking, like it makes me almost feel like Anima would just be one of the better running games out there.
Oh yeah, if Anima had like consistency in its rule set and like actually finished its rules, and there's a lot of those little things that make Anima a really well performing game. There's also the point where I'm like thinking about Anima's skill system, and there's probably some math nerd out there, some dweeb, who could crunch the numbers and figure out like, okay, statistically speaking, rolling this die type with these modifiers, keeping it like, maybe instead you're rolling like you're rolling d20s with it, but you have the same level of consistency as the current existing Anima dice system. I think that would make the game feel inherently weaker, because like there is a sheer difference of being like, hell yeah, I rolled a really good, guys. I got a 25 on my skill. That means I really succeeded. To Anima, a game that feels like it's designed to just be ridiculous with your power scale that you can get to then say, I got a 440.
Yeah.
There's a difference in that. And like you feel the scale of the game better with the higher number.
Well, I mean, I don't even think that's super relevant necessarily, because modifiers, it's all just like math. It's all just simple. You can still have the 440 and the 80, because those are the two opposite ends of the spectrum of success in that game.
Yeah, like I'm saying, that is a strength of Anima's dice system, that it's consistent, and actually you feel the scale of the game. Like you feel how high scale the game can be as your character levels. And I think it's an interesting examination to figure out how a dice system makes your game feel, with like what type of tone you're trying to set. Because I think the experience of Anima would be weaker if mathematically it was the exact same probability, but you were rolling a d20. I think it would feel different.
Yeah. I mean, like, in all honesty, most TTRPGs I know nowadays just reduce your DCs by like 4 points, and I feel like your characters will feel instantly more generally good at the things they want to feel good at. Like,
agreed.
To be fair, that also makes you much more likely to succeed at the things you're not good at. But or you could just give everyone expertises in like 1 or 2 skills, whatever it is.
You have that push-pull of which one is better, making the numbers larger or making the numbers smaller. Because you know what? I think I put the blame. DC 15 is a bad DC for like a more like kind of difficult, but like I'm straining myself a little bit for D&D's DC system. Because a lot of times, until you get really good at a skill, a DC 15 is a coin flip.
Yep.
Most of the math in D&D is let me flip a coin real quick.
Yep.
And that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of makes me think of Anima, because like Anima, you only get like 100 points per level up. And depending on what archetype you're playing, like the cheapest you can hope for usually is like a 2-for-1 for like skill point increasing. So like if you dumped your whole level up into one skill, you could get 50 points, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
and most of the time that's not quite enough, but almost enough to get you to the next like the next difficulty rank, because it's like 80, 140, 160, you know, weird non-linear math. But like I feel like I think that's just what you need to do. You just need to make it where you can invest. You need to have skill differences that are way higher than they are in TTRPGs currently. Because like in like Pathfinder, the difference between a skill you're good at or not good at is like sometimes it's like 6 points, you know, which is a lot in by the game standard. But 6 points is still feasible within the same D20 roll to make up for, you know. In Anima, it's like you could have 140 points in a skill and 0 points in the skill, or 10 points in the skill to not get the penalty. And no matter what you roll on the other one, unless you get like some crazy exploding dice, you can't even come close to what the other person can roll, you know.
Yeah, and like so, and the other benefit to it is like leveling skills in Anima feels really good as like a progression wise, because like the feeling of being like, okay, and if I add 20 points into this skill over time, then I'm at this level of consistency. Because that's what I was tracking with summoning. Summoning is a really good example of that, because you have like multiple skill checks you need to make.
Yeah.
So I was progressing my summoner in ways of like, all right, now my cap of what I could summon has increased. I had a table on the back of Hiram's sheet, like summoning sheet, that was purely, I recreated the chart from the book, and I was able to symbol to myself, this is the one, unless you botch, you will always succeed on. This is the one that's risky, but you can do it. Like I had those little methods of tracking it myself. That feels really good. It felt really sick every time we leveled, because I felt like my character was actually getting stronger, and it was super noticeable.
I feel like I'm getting baited to play Anima.
No, I don't know, man. I'm just saying, like,
no,
I walk away from this is like, is Anima just one of the best dice systems we've played? Like, I feel like it kind of is. I'm convincing myself.
Yeah, that's kind of just where I'm at too. I'm almost like, wait, is Anima actually good? Is it just does it just have too many things that are broken that we ignore the fact that the system is actually good?
Yeah, like the game is designed by crazy people, just throwing in the anime they watched that week into the book when they were writing it, like 100%. But like, yeah, is the core mechanics there really good, and it could be cleaned up by someone very dedicated to like have this game fully function? Oh man,
you said that, and then a little part of me died and became less interested.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. That is the reality. They want to make a new Anima game. I don't think they're going to have that person working on it.
Yeah,
and I'm happy for that. But like the problem with the game is that there's a lot of shit that just doesn't function right, or like it's just written to function, or it's broken.
It's just so poorly balanced that they're just become objectively correct ways to play. You know. Not even objectively correct like how a lot of Pathfinder 2e nerds like to talk about it. No, objectively correct in your character. You can make a character who just can't succeed anything, can't even be a character, because you just can't succeed a single check. And you can make a character who can easily just beat any check with no problem. So it's like the problem with Anima was you could just game the fun out of it. So, like, yeah, what an interesting conversation to lead into from what's next for RPGs, where we're like, is Anima the solution at the end of it?
Yeah.
I do want to succinctly end on the idea of what's next for TTRPGs. And I gotta say that I really don't know exactly what, because I'm gonna be straight up honest, at least for me personally, no games seem to be designed in a way that makes me excited. There's been a lot of like false alarms. I looked over Drawsteel. I looked over the whole thing. It's okay. It's not crazy. Daggerheart's not crazy. Cosmere's not crazy. None of these games seem to be answering like what I feel are like very simple design problems, like skill checks in general. Why can I focus my character on a skill check and still only succeed like 60-70% of the time, which sounds like a lot, but in any practical skill in real life, that's not good. You aren't considered good if you fuck up 1 in 3 times. You know?
Yeah.
Like skill checks for one, social systems that are just more than a skill check. Please give me social combats that are more than that. I know Draw still has a little bit of one, which I think is interesting. I think it's good. It's not that deep, but it's deeper than most other games have got going on currently. And I love Cosmere's focus point system for it. I think how Cosmere does it is at least more interesting, for sure. And it's a brilliant use of resources on the character sheet. But it's not that deep. It's not that interesting. There's not a lot of ways you can really interact with it. You just play a more interesting game than a skill check, which is fine. And like those are like the two things I think I argue or I complain about the most. Like when it comes to combat, back in the olden days, the complaint was, why does combat take 2 hours? But honestly, nowadays I don't really worry about it or feel that too much, you know. Like in Pathfinder, yeah, we've had some long ass combats, but you also do a lot in combat a lot of the time. And I gotta say, Cosmere actually has some pretty fast combats. We've done like a 20-minute combat or something, which is crazy.
I feel like it's built pretty well to be quick.
Yeah.
There's like enough moving parts that it's interesting, or while like not being super long, but I feel like I have mechanical choice of what it can do. It hits a decent balance.
But like
yeah.
None of the big games that have currently come out answer many of my problems, sadly. I like Cosmere. I think it's interesting. I'm so hyped for Mistborn, especially because I'm going through the Mistborn books now.
They're fun.
They're great. I love them. Kelsier is the definition of a madman in both a positive and negative sense.
Yes. Sanderson has said explicitly, Kelsier is a psychopath.
Yeah,
like a clinical psychopath.
I have thought that.
Yeah, and like there's a point of Kelsier as you're reading him. It should be the like, you like him. You really like him.
Yeah.
And you should have that realization of like, oh, yeah, I'm being charmed by him. I don't think this guy has like normal emotions.
Well, yes and no.
There are more points later on that'll show this. But like there are elements of Kelsier of like, I don't think I do not believe Kelsier has empathy. Because of some decisions and points he's made. And I also do not think Kelsier is being completely honest with some of the things that's happened to him.
Yeah, I'll have to read more because I can't say for certain.
Yeah, I'm basing this off of books you will read later.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I mean, I think he definitely cares. He definitely cares about the people around him. And he definitely wants them to, be happy. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's being empathic, so.
Kelsier's first option for a lot of things is, kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's his first answer to a lot of things, and he really struggles when taking in a new viewpoint.
When he said to Vin, okay, hey, if it makes you feel better, I won't kill these guys, and that's something that would honestly make you feel better about the situation. That's a problem.
Kelsier is also, there's just parts where you will get little hints when he's like, I'm getting all these people to like me. You're like, I think you like having this power over people. I think you can claim to be the revolutionary. I think you enjoy holding this power.
Well, I mean, Marsh has said as much though.
Yeah.
So.
And you know what? Scadrial #1, baby. I am on Scadrial's side. Uh, like, I will see if I eat those words, but I'm gonna keep to it.
Yeah, we'll see. I am excited to get to Era 2.
It's so good.
It blows me away how much I don't know anything about Era 2, really, other than, like, the few things you've mentioned before. Because, like, when you look at anything Mistborn related outside of the books, it's all Era 1.
It's a crime. It is a crime because, like, there is a thing in the community, and I fully disagree with it, that, like, parts of Era 2 aren't gripping or they feel unimportant. Or the one thing that comes up is Book 4 of Era 2 feels like you have to do homework first. That's not a problem for us because we're reading through the entirety of the Cosmere, so we're doing the homework. I can understand if you're reading just Era 2 Mistborn, which I also don't think you should do, because, like, there's so much parts of Era 2 that, like, make you feel satisfied for having read the first part. It's really good at balancing the level of, like, callbacks without it just being like, these new characters aren't important compared to the old stuff. It hits a perfect balance of that. But, like, Book 4 is the most Cosmere expansion book he's had in a bit. It's like how Oathbringer opened up a lot of wide Cosmere stuff.
Yeah.
Picture that, but a bit wider.
Yeah.
I don't think Stormlight has actually been as wide as Book 4 of Mistborn Era 2.
No, yeah,
it is like the most.
It does sound like Mistborn has been the most like interconnected Cosmere series so far.
Book 4 is. I will say Stormlight is more interconnected as, like, a thing until you get to Book 4 Mistborn, where it's like, oh, okay, we're getting, like, a really big view. The only other one after that is, like, it's right under Isles of the Emberdark for being, like, as universally expanded. You learn a lot about the world by reading Era 2 Mistborn, like, right at the end. It's interesting. I understand why people think it's, you know, it's a little underwhelming, but I think Book 4 Era 2, it hit really hard. So I think you'll enjoy it. It's gonna make it, you're gonna really get into the magic system way harder, because my critique of Era 1 Mistborn is the concept of Mistborns makes the magic less interesting. I am less interested when someone can do everything. I am more interested when someone can do one thing really cool.
So you may have unintentionally answered a question for me then. So are there just no Mistborns in Era 2?
It is way harder to become a Mistborn.
I see.
That's really it. It's like it is just a harder state to reach. And you'll find out exactly why and how. But, like, it is not through, like, a major conscious effort. It's just how the world developed. Mistborns work.
Based on the goals, even here in the first book, I can understand why it would be more difficult, especially because of, you know, of a lot of general understanding of investiture, because investiture is, like, a strangely infinitely indivisible or divisible thing. It can be split up, like, almost infinitely. It can be made smaller and smaller and smaller, and in some systems that happens way more rapidly than others, it feels like.
The other bit is because a big aspect later on is, like, it is theoretically possible to go back to that era where Mistborns were everywhere. The ways of doing it are not great.
Yeah.
And are really tough, impractical, or awful, just morally.
Yeah. Special breeding programs.
Yeah, and then some extra things you just don't have, just haven't learned about yet.
Yeah, fair.
But, like, it is theoretically possible. However, as, like, I think you've already been hinted at when it comes to Isles of the Emberdark, it's also becoming a point where it's like, why would you in the first place? Because, like, a big aspect is Fabrial tech is already becoming a big, wider thing.
Yeah.
And the technology from Scadrial that kind of makes it like, well, why in the world would I need to be a Mistborn when I can go to the store and buy, like, these things that let me do these powers?
Yeah, why do I need to worry about steel pushing when I can just have a gun?
Yeah. I can have
Yeah.
a gun and like I can go buy a bracelet that gives me like steel pushing. Like, why would I care about being born with it? And why would I
Yeah.
care about other stuff? Like, I don't use this power. Why in the world would I need to have it?
Yeah. So it's just
So
like,
it develops really interestingly.
yeah, I'm excited. I think it's really good. And honestly, like I thought I would hate Vin more than I do. Vin's pretty cool. I like Vin.
Vin is actually a fun character. I think she has an arc that makes sense for her, and
Yeah.
like she developed in a fun way. Um, she's well done.
I'm genuinely happy Brandon is a good enough writer to not make Vin the most ungirly girl to like ever be, you know, to be the most like generic just protagonist type character. Like Vin actually kind of enjoys being a girl and being feminine, and she actually enjoys like some of those aspects, and that's kind of cool to see, because so much of like female empowerment in media, it just becomes like
rejecting part of what like
rejecting your
femininity as a
femininity.
concept.
Yeah.
When like no, there's healthy amounts. It's the same way of like being like in like I guess having some level of enjoyment of being masculine.
Yeah.
I'm a person that doesn't put much stock into my like the ideas of like for myself femininity and masculinity. I just don't care.
Yeah.
But there are levels of like, yeah, I enjoy these masculine things, and I feel like I would enjoy life a little less if I didn't have these, and I can still point and enjoy it. I think it's an important aspect to be like, yeah, I'm like this. I'm a real human being. I'm a person, but like I can enjoy this thing.
Yeah.
Which, funny enough, is a bit that comes back later in Era 2. Like I like how it's addressed in Era 2 as well.
That's hype.
So it's consistent.
Yeah, because like Vin had every reason to not, you know, enjoy feminine things and to kind of like eschew them quite a bit. And it's not like Vin was always pining for it. Like she never mentions like wanting to wear dresses, and when she starts wearing them in the first place, she's always like, "Ugh, I hate this. This doesn't feel right." And then she just kind of like gets into it and starts enjoying it, and it's like that's cool. It's more interesting than like most female protagonists in similar situations.
There is a character similar route as Vin. I love her. She's so fun. And there's a part of her arc that is realizing, because she's like, man, I really love these two cowboys. They're just so cool. And then like she travels with them and she realizes, I don't actually like the idea of I don't like being a cowboy though.
Yeah.
Where like they have this conversation where Wax jokes with her like, what, you want to move out to the roughs and like be a lawman like me? And she's like, I like dresses too much.
Yeah.
And like they kind of laugh about it, but she's like, they're just things I like with my life. I can like the idea of this, and but I do just inherently enjoy. She's like, I enjoy doing my makeup and my hair. I enjoy wearing these frilly ass dresses, but like, so I'm not gonna just abandon it. But like, I don't know. It's a really interesting point that they're making consistently in the series. Era 2 is a book where I like every single character. Every single character we follow, I adore and like love following. So the moment Human Slug get to that, I'm gonna be so happy because it is my favorite series in the Cosmere. I like it more than Stormlight.
Honestly, I've been hyped up for it, so I'm excited for it. But that's gonna be it for us.
I gotta get going.
We kind of rambled.
I was dying. We did.
But yeah, tabletop. We're in an interesting era. If I can't predict it, that means that the way the market is going is just so off kilter than, you know, what you would expect. Because like I'm someone who like would know how things were moving. Like I've been pretty accurate up until this point. I think I've earned some cred here. So the fact that I don't know, like I feel like everything is going to mostly like kind of start stagnating a bit. Like Daggerheart's gonna still like keep doing well. It's gonna be on a pretty like low but upward trajectory. Pathfinder's still gonna be doing some cool stuff and still doing well in the background. I think Cosmere's more flat. I don't think it's gonna be too interesting, at least until Mistborn, and then we'll get another huge spike, and then maybe it'll start going up from there. Who knows? I don't think Draw Steel, or I don't think DC 20 are going to do anything too exciting. They seem too niche to the communities that they seem to be pushing towards, and the mechanics are not so universally applicable, nor honestly that inventive to really change things too much. So, yeah, I don't know. And like we had this really high period, and now I just feel like everything's just gonna kind of glide and coast for a while, and not be exciting, which is sad. And we might see a increase in sci-fi, which might be cool. So who knows? But yeah, that's gonna be it for us. Alex, anything you want to leave us off with today before we head out?
Yeah, I actually put out a video early. I wonder why.
Yeah.
So tomorrow I'm making
Path of Exile tomorrow.
I do make a joke in the video because it was pertinent to the subject. I'm talking about the Syndicate from Mage the Ascension. It goes live tomorrow morning. And I found out that it is a technocratic plot to have video game economies. That is a plot of a hyper-economic mages to expand their understanding of hyper-economics and con us into their consensus. So I made a joke that mages are stealing my Exalted Orbs. Because I'm going to be playing that tomorrow when people are watching it. Yeah. So yeah, go sub to my channel. It's Glue Boy. If you want to go hear about the really funny economic wizards, they're great fun.
Yep. As for me, I'm just coming off of like a relative household, not crisis, but a lot of sickness. We didn't have Table Talk last week because I was sick after helping my family with being sick. Fortunately, I was only like sick for like effectively a day, so that worked out.
You bounced back quick.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm gonna be so honest. I thought I would get sick sooner and for much longer than I did, but I didn't get nearly as sick, and I was not sick nearly as long as both my wife or my daughter. And my daughter was still like pretty stuffy nose up until like Monday, Tuesday. So like it's just now the house is getting back to normal, and I had to do some chores and everything, but I have Lightweavers recorded. I just need to edit it, and I would have done it sooner, but I got dice from Missy Mountain Gaming, and I actually got my shirt and my sweatshirt for those who care. So go check them out. There's not a link in this video, but I'm sure you can find them. I'm not being sponsored for this one, so I don't need to do anything special. But the dice are cool. The Cat's Eye, they're really nice gemstone dice. They feel
sick.
Weighty. Like they're not. This looks like a plastic die. This feels like 3 times heavier than a normal plastic die. So
that is really sick.
Yeah, I was very happy to get to work with them too. I'm also premiered on their website as one of their promoting faces. So,
oh, that's sick.
Yeah, though I am next to Nonats and then some other guy I actually don't know, which is weird.
What was the company name again? I want to.
Misty Mountain Gaming. My most recent video has a link.
Oh yeah, fair.
But yeah, so Lightweavers are coming out. We're kind of past the high intensity period for tabletop gaming, so I'm probably gonna reduce down to about like 1 video a week. I'm still raising a daughter. Life is still, not quite so easy. I'm gonna try my best to keep up on things, but it's hard, as we saw with the last week. But that's gonna be it for us. Thank you all so much for watching, and I guess we'll see you all next time.
See ya.
Bye.